And welcome back. This is your man Warrior, and this is a patron roster review. This is Beav from Oyo. I think that's how it says, or it's just a 0 / / 0. No, I'm just kidding. But for real, Beav is a Dolphin. He's been playing since the very beginning. He considers himself mostly a collector, which would put him kind of more on the casual side of gameplay, but he is running a guild, and it's difficult. He's finding there's a lot of roadblocks. He kind of wants to know a little bit about some basic territory battle team comps. I'm pretty sure he already knows the comps he should be going for, but we'll discuss that. The heroic AAT teams, because either running into a little bit of a roadblock. He does want me to suggest a team that he can use Coruscant Underworld Police in. I find that hysterical. And he wants some help as far as guild management. Now, we're going to tackle the guild management first. This is going to be the greatest portion of this video. It's going to be what we basically focus on. Because he's a leader, it's going to be hyper critical that portion of it is the part that we actually dive really deep in. So the first thing, Beav, you've got to do is you've got to decide, are you a casual guild or a more serious guild? It's kind of one side or the other. Either you don't care about the heroic teams and like Traya and General Kenobi and Han Solo, or you do and you want to build and structure a guild around being able to compete in those, as well as territory wars and things like that. So you have to decide where on the spectrum you kind of fall, and then you've got to decide, where we're at, what your goals are for it, because if your guild's goal is to participate in all of those things, then you're going to have different goals than if your goal is to just be a casual guild. So it does sound a bit like you're a casual guild, but you really do want to start converting it into more of an aggressive guild. And so some basic things that you're going to have to start relying on. The first is you're going to have to set goals for the guild. What that means is you are going to have to set for each person individual goals, such as your goal is that everybody needs to be at 1 million galactic power or higher within 3 months, something like that. Now that's arbitrary, but you're going to have to set that. That does mean that you are going to have to move some of those more passive players that really aren't contributing out of your guild and replace them with contributors. And this is just for the benefit of the guild. This is kind of a natural process that happens in every game. If you're going to stay casual and allow those people in that are lower like that, then those are individuals who are going to pull the entire guild down and prevent you from really getting those rewards that you're looking for. So you're going to have to set some goals. My suggestion is a minimum of a 1 million GP. Now, after you set that and people start making that bar or getting cut, you're going to have to do two things. One, that bar has to continue to increase slowly over time. You can't let people rush to get to a goal and then not have a future goal. That bar is going to have to then move to saying, everybody has to be 1.5 million GP within the next 6 months, and then 2 million after the next 6 months. And you got to have these goals. You have to communicate these goals to your guild so that they are aware of what they are and what they're shooting for. This is going to give them something to be structured and to work towards. And it's going to allow for you to catch those people who are falling behind and to move them out. What's going to happen is they're going to get moved out and they're going to go to another guild that's either more passive or more casual and better suited for them. So you're actually doing those individuals a favor because you're going to take them out of a more stressful environment and allow them to go into a less stressful environment. Some people voluntarily move down the ladder into more casual guilds, and I can understand, because the higher you go up, the more serious it becomes, and the more serious it becomes, the more time investment there is. But first one is goals. The second is communication. You're going to have to be able to communicate all of these things, and you're going to need to do it probably with an outside source. My highest recommendation is Discord. You probably already have a Discord chat, but if not, build it, set it up, establish it with multiple channels. That way you can give your guild a very competitive edge. This is going to give you the ability for everybody to communicate and make it a requirement. Again, this is going to be a requirement of your guild. If they don't want to participate in this outside chat, then they can find another guild that is better suited for them. This isn't personal. This is simply creating and building what's best for you and your guild. So goals, and then the communication as an outside source. I prefer Discord over all others. Third, you're going to want to watch, and you're going to want everybody else to watch, my free-to-play farming guide. Now, this isn't just a shameless plug about my free-to-play farming guide, but my 2018 guide with the 4-pillar system is actually the most efficient farming guide. Now, some people can add or remove certain characters as they see fit. They could add certain ships as they see fit. It's a guide. It's not the holy grail of this is the only thing you can do, but it will give, especially your mid to early game players, which you have a ton of, a super focus or hyper focus on which characters should actually be invested in. Time-wise, energy-wise, and or if they're investing a little money-wise. So that is why you would use it. It's not for, like I said, a shameless plug. Rather, it's going to be for you to have a tool for you to go to and have your individuals all kind of on the same page. What it will do is it will get everybody Rancor ready, and then Heroic AAT ready, and then eventually after the 4-pillar system, which could take anywhere from 6 months to 2 years for individuals, after they graduate that guide, they will be into the advanced game and allow for you to be able to do anything that's within the game, including the newest Sith raid that's out. Another idea is to enroll them into both swgoh.gg and swgoh University. So on Discord, there's a brand new Discord chat, which is called swgoh University, and it has a lot of information that is being added daily, and it is a basic kind of school, if you will, a university, if you will, of information, and there's a lot of people contributing there. That's going to give them a wealth of knowledge and allow for them to have somewhere to go to look for answers when you might not have all those answers. Now, Beav, you are a patron, so you can pick my brain anytime you'd like. You can do it through the channels or through private message and let me know what it is that you're trying to solve, and of course, I'm there for you. But I would also use the tool of swgoh.gg for a couple of things. One, it gives you the freedom to create a guild page, which will allow for you to have private information for your guild only on swgoh, that you can have team compositions they're working towards for territory battles, team compositions that they're working towards for territory wars, offense, territory wars, defense. It will help you manage your guild and know who is ahead of the curve, who's on track, and who's falling behind, so you can give that individualized attention to those individuals who may need some one-on-one mentorship or some focus, and that gives you that ability to see that. But the only way to really get a good breadth of what's going on is to have tools, and swgoh.gg is one of the best, especially for guild management. Number 5 is going to be you have to actively recruit. You're going to have a goal. You're going to not recruit anyone under a certain GP. So if your GP goal is 1 million, everyone in the guild needs to attain that within a period of time. And then anyone you bring in that's new is going to already have to have acquired that goal set. So that way you're not bringing in somebody that you're going to have to bring up from the ground up. This also might mean that you have to lock your guild into an invite-only type situation. Now that sounds like, man, I'm not going to get any new blood, but you can. There's a Facebook website that actually is dedicated to getting individuals into your guild, and there's also another Facebook page that's just generalized Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes that has 50,000 people. The other one has almost 10,000, and between that, that's 60,000 people you can do. So make sure that you're actively recruiting and have a goal. And then the next is going to be that you can't do this alone. You're going to have to build a team around you. You're only as good as the team that you're using. So if you don't have a good team around you of a bunch of people that are pulling their weight specifically with these things I'm telling you about, as far as all of this stuff, then you're going to need to build a team around you. You need 3 to 5 people at least that are going to really help you launch raids, watch people, make sure that they're making their goals, watch for the 600. You're going to have to make the 600 or something like that mandatory. Maybe you're going to say it's 400 mandatory. Maybe you're going to say 500 mandatory. I really recommend 600 because it's extremely attainable for anyone, even the free-to-play, because even the free-to-play are probably going to spend 150 crystals a day, because that's about what they get through Galactic War in their dailies. And so because of that, through their dailies, they have enough, and they should be investing those crystals daily into energy at a minimum, doing 3 energy refreshes plus what you get daily. You should very easily be able to hit 600. There are many days I spend no more than 150 crystals and get my dailies in of 600. In fact, that's my routine, unless there's something I'm specifically farming. So make sure you have that set, but it is only going to be based on how good your team is and which individuals you have surrounding you. Now, who should be leaders? Well, people that show a natural tendency to get involved in a good way, people that see someone struggling and help out, or suggest team compositions, or individuals who seem to always be in the game at all times, individuals who seem to want to help out and participate. These are also individuals not only are active, but have a higher total GP. These are people that have been around the block and have played for a long period of time, have done a lot of study on both Reddit and Facebook, and they've watched a lot of YouTube videos. Maybe they're on swgoh already, and so they have a heightened sense of knowledge with all of these tools that the team is going to need to become familiarized with, and so that way you have someone that's going to help you with those. All right. And number 7, this is going to be something that is an option, but I highly recommend it, especially for newer and growing guilds, Beav. This is going to be get a merc into your guild until you guys can do things on your own. So if you guys are getting Rancor taken care of, which I know you're kind of soloing it yourself, I believe, and they're all kind of feeding off of you, you want to make sure that you have a few more people that are developed and that you can do the heroic AAT with. But until that comes, there are people that literally have a Wampinator team that can go from phase 1 to phase 4 all by themselves. And if they can get number 1 rewards, they get tons of good stuff for themselves. It's kind of a selfish thing, but it also helps the guild. And so you can find these merc channels that are actually on Discord as well, where you just find 1 or 2 people that are willing to come into your guild, and they are going to earn and go through and get their first and second slots, and then they're going to get a bunch of great rewards. But then your guild, as long as they're posting zeros and things like that, they're going to get rewards. Now, this is what I suggest, that any merc you bring in, that you suggest to that merc that they do it phase by phase. If you can find a merc that can do 4 phases with 4 teams, that would be best. And the reason for that is it would give you the freedom to be able to allow for practice with every other person that's in your guild, so they can actually start to practice the teams they have to try to see how much damage they can do per phase, and then let the merc clean up that phase, move on to the next phase. Let your people practice again, because if your people post nothing but zeros and the merc does all the work and you never get to practice, then what's going to happen is you're never going to develop the skills that it takes, even if you have the teams that it takes. So those are my suggestions. You need to set goals, like having a galactic power goal. You're going to have to set outside communication, such as Discord. You need to have them following a really stringent free-to-play farming guide. Have goals as far as your 600 or 500, whatever. Enroll them in the Star Wars Galaxy Heroes universe or swgoh.gg. You need to be actively recruiting and make sure you have a goal for those you're bringing in. You need to surround yourself with great leaders that are very active and have a higher GP than normal. So if your guild is around 1 million, they may want to be 1.5 to 2 million. So you have a little more team structure with that. And you want to possibly get in a merc for the heroic AAT until you guys can do it yourself. Now let's move really quick into the teams for territory battles and potentially heroic AAT. All right, one of the teams that's required for the territory battles, and you could use it in heroic AAT, is going to be Phoenix and Rogue One. Both Rogue One and Phoenix Rebels are going to be required inside of territory battles. And so because of that, if you have to develop them in one area of the game, you should use them in all areas of the game. So because of territory battles, Phoenix and Rogue One being needed, I highly recommend focusing specifically on your Phoenix and your Rogue One. Obviously, you want to continue to gear up Commander Luke Skywalker or any other character that makes sense, but those are going to be the rebels that I would highly suggest you focus on. We're going to stay with light side real quick, and the other specifically for the heroic AAT will be your resistance. And the reason is, with all of the resistance characters that are in the game, you can build a like a phase 2 resistance team and a phase 3/4 resistance team. Now you have your Han Solo and your CLS, and those are characters people should be focused on getting in my first and second pillars, preferably the first pillar. And so if they focus on those characters and get them up, they'll have Han Solo and CLS pretty quickly within 6 months of gameplay, and that will be able to contribute to these teams for heroic Rancor or heroic AAT. As far as Rancor goes, you'll be able to use Han Solo and CLS all by themselves, and they can go through it, and everybody should be able to do that on your team within 6 months if they're hyper focused. Now, as far as resistance goes, you would use the new Rey that is coming into the game, which you will have a shot at next time. Your Rey, your R2, your BB-8, and then probably Han Solo or Thrawn and CLS. That's going to make up a really great phase 3, phase 4 team. And you'll do a ton of damage. And even if you can't solo an entire phase, that team can do at least one phase. So if everybody focuses on this one team, you will be able to clear the heroic AAT. Also for phase 2, you could use this resistance team with the leftovers. So we're talking about a Finn lead, a Poe Dameron, resistance trooper, resistance pilot, and then you could put Rey Scavenger inside of that team. So having resistance can pretty much take care of all of the heroic AAT. Now, I know there's a little bit of talk about the exposed being nerfed, possibly things like that. Regardless of what's being said, this is still going to probably be the absolute free-to-play friendlies best team ever for the heroic AAT. So make sure you're focused on it. Now let's go to dark side. Now the dark side, you're going to have Empire, and Empire is the first dark side characters you'll start to work on. And so because of that, you're going to have a number of these characters, and also in here is Imperial Troopers. Now Imperial Troopers actually have requirements inside of Territory Battles dark side, so that'll be something that you'll focus on in phase 2 for sure. You're going to want to start to get those characters up, but the Empire is going to be a great team for Territory Wars, Territory Battles, heroic AAT in phases 1 and 2, or you could use them even in phase 4. But this is one of, and Emperor Palpatine teams are still utilized in phase 3, so actually all phases of that. But Empire is going to be really important, and they're one of your strongest factions, so you're going to want to lean in on some of the factions that you've put the most work into. Some of the characters that I see in here that you will have to start to develop is going to be characters such as Shore Trooper, Death Trooper, General Veers, finishing your Grand Admiral Thrawn, and TIE Fighter Pilot. Those are going to be some real go-tos, and Shore Trooper or Snow Trooper, who you have at Gear 10, you'll want to probably take to Gear 11. If people are Dolphins or free to play, you want to take characters to basically Gear 11 unless they're in your arena team. Otherwise, that would be the absolute highest I would suggest. If they're completely free to play, if they get them up to Gear 9 or so, that's pretty good, and they can move on to the next team. Once they have all these teams developed, then they can go back and kind of finish off at in-game all of the high-end gear. Now, some of Empire is some of Sith, and that's why you see Darth Vader and Emperor Palpatine, but you're going to be able to use Sith in the dark side territory battles. They have a spot in Territory Wars as well as the heroic AAT, and so this is one of those things where you do want to develop them. Now, you do have your Sith pretty well developed. In fact, it's one of the best factions for you as far as development goes, so that's really, really good. And the last dark side faction I'm going to actually recommend, especially for Territory Battles dark side, and then for Territory Wars, defense or offense, is going to be Night Sisters. Now, I know that Night Sisters right now, it's really, really difficult because Mother Talzin, Spirit, and Zombie are not technically farmable on the map anywhere yet. They said they were going to bring it to the map very, very soon. And so because of that, I would suggest within the next month they become farmable, and because of that, you should also start considering developing them. Now, 5 of them are already 7 stars. That's the hard work, so it's just a matter of gearing them up. But Mother Talzin at 4 stars, especially in Territory Wars, is still extremely viable. And in Territory Battles, you can do the first 3 phases with Mother Talzin and get through some of those nodes. And this is one of, just like Imperial Troopers, one of the best teams in the game for Territory Battles. So for your Imperial Troopers and your Night Sisters, those are kind of more in-game teams that you'll want to focus on to make sure that you can clear some of those other nodes. All right, and then as far as Arena, I know you said you didn't need any help with Arena. You're just old school like that and love what you're running, but you have no tank. And my just 2 cents before we go into the last thing is I would suggest you throwing in a tank, and really the only tank that makes sense in here is going to be Royal Guard. You do have Royal Guard, I think, at gear 11, so there's a possibility you might want to put Royal Guard into this team. Now, I know your favorite character of all time is pretty much Savage, and so that's why he's not coming off this team. So you'd have to put in Royal Guard instead of Darth Maul, but the Daze is absolutely amazing. But when you get a tank such as replacing Savage with Royal Guard, which again won't probably happen because you're not going to let that happen, but it will help in how much you're falling each and every night. And I know, again, you're not really interested in arena suggestions right now, but that was just my 2 cents for that. Now let's go ahead and give you a team that uses the cup. So of all the characters that you have on light side, the number one character I see that will make Cup as most viable as possible is actually going to be Commander Luke Skywalker. Commander Luke Skywalker is going to be your lead. Of course, R2 and BB-8. You have BB-8 on the bottom right, and you have R2 on the top left. And so those two droids underneath CLS do really, really well. You would need a tank, and so of all the tanks that you have, probably Old Ben, it would be the suggestion that I would have for you as far as a tank, because he's going to have mind tricks for ability block, and then he also is going to have, if and when you ever Zeta it, a double taunt, means a taunt, and then if it's taken off, he'll taunt again. And then Coruscant Underworld Police could go into that lineup. If these characters are at gear 11 or higher with maxed abilities, even if you don't have all the Zetas, it is arena viable. In fact, I would venture to say that this team would actually, even with Cup, be as viable as the current arena team that you have now. And I know you're desperate to get them to work, and I know some of the developers that love Coruscant Underworld Police and want it reworked, but I guess it's probably not going to happen. So if that's the team you want to run with Cup, then that would be the team I would suggest. Commander Luke, R2 BB-8, Old Ben as the tank, and Coruscant Underworld Police. You might get some stuns out of it, maybe, maybe not. It doesn't work as well as I would like. Again, I have a gear 12 or gear 11 Coruscant Underworld Police. I believe gear 11 Coruscant Underworld Police. I hope, Beav, this has helped. I know that this is a lot of information, especially for guild management. I hope everyone who watches this really focuses on their guild and makes that determination. Are they casual or more serious? Which direction are you going? What goals do you have? And then share those goals with your team. It's just the only way you're going to be able to grow is to know where you're growing to. As always, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below, and keep your gaming on. Warrior out.